Smart as a deer and fast as a cantaloupe, our brave hero was searching for the lost city of Marcita Aurora. There he was, seeing from far away the city unraveling, and the closer he gets, the more he sees all the small details of the town.
Welcome back, my loyal onlookers, for the final chapter of this amazing adventure, the building of a town district of Marcita Aurora. For those who were wondering since the beginning of the series, the name Marcita Aurora is basic Latin for wisdom, and the story needed to capture all I love in life. Medieval architecture, you guessed that of course. Nature, city with rivers, and obscure pagan deities. But as I also love history, food and technology, there are still some stuff to add. This last episode will be small elements I wanted on my scenery for the city district to look like a living place. With some heraldry on the manor, the food merchant, and also lights at the windows. I also spent some days before the final release to paint the inhabitants of the city. So let's check these last projects together and find a nice place in the display cabinet to tidy up my workshop. The bigger part of this episode will be around the merchant house, as we are making the stall where he will sell fruits and vegetables. We also need to finish those window panes, but this time we will be historically accurate about how people were covering the openings before glass was common. Then regarding the manor, we still have the coat of arms and the banner to make, using the Marcita Aurora heraldry of the deer skull. And finally, let's pretend we have actual houses behind those facades and people living inside. Those should have a chimney or candles to make light during the night, and we will reflect that through the windows and shutters. First, a little history lesson. We usually consider that windows are made of glass, and it's a really contemporary point of view. But except some really rare case in Rome and stained glass for churches, civil use of glass isn't common until after the 16th century. Before that, we have full wood panels or sometimes parchment, bladder or horn panels. I would recommend you check the history and work of the guedelon project in France, where for years a group of people are recreating a full castle using only the tools and knowledge of the time. So, for the merchant house, we are going to have those, but of course no need to find pig bladder for that. Let's first take the same kind of rigid plastic we had for the stained glass windows as a base and put a paper tissue on it. Then I'm mixing some seraphim sepia with water to dilute the color a little. I'm then covering the tissue with it. Then I'm soaking it with a mix of water and PVA glue, and while it's still wet, I'm stretching it on the plastic to have a nice flat surface. While it's drying, we are moving back to the wood. You remember those wood stirrers from the third video? Well, it's time to take them back. Once again, we are scratching the surface with a wire brush to create the wood grain. Then we cut them lengthwise to have some thin jams. You don't need to undercoat them actually, we are just washing them with Acrax Earthshade to get a nice dark wood color. When it's dry, we can then create some cross with the stirrers on the paper tissue, one for each window, and glue them with PVA. I'm having 4 panels windows upstairs and 6 panels windows downstairs. Now you can report the size of your window frames to the windows and cut them to fit the holes. And like for the stained glass windows on the previous video, we just have to glue them from behind using hot glue. There, the facade is done and this house is complete. But as it's a merchant house, we still need to show that the guy is actually selling stuff. To create the merchant store, I'm going to need some material. First, balsa wood, as it will be the easiest way to sculpt and cut the structure. Then some more stirrers, unfortunately. I'll need some fabric also, the same kind we used for Clegane Faith cloth, but this time you can use real fabric if you prefer, as well as a printer. No, don't worry, I'm talking about an inkjet printer, not a 3D one. And finally, some air dry clay, Fimo, well, basically anything you can sculpt easily, especially on small volumes. But first, the structure. Based on miniature side, I will make a 8 by 8 by 8 cm store. The rear part is 2 square timbers supported by angles, a horizontal wood piece at the top and a shorter one on the middle. I will go back to the wire brush and X-Acto knife to give every piece its unique shape. Then I can glue them all together. The front part is a bit more complicated. We have 2 poles to support the front part of the tent and a display table. The table is composed of a top, a basic rectangle of balsa here. The sides will be sculpted and I created this pattern to create 2 similar sides. We also have a support in the middle, of course. I'm just carving the wood to make the sides and glue the first elements together. You can see I carved round holes on the sides of the tabletop. That's because it will be the pole places in the end. It's time to apply a nice coat of wash around those pieces to give them dark wood color. And then complete it with some Tyrant Skull dry brush. Now it's time to do the fabric. I kept a piece of an old shirt and cut a sample. I'm going to show you how to print fabric for miniature purpose. The first step will be to stick the piece to a sheet of paper in the printing direction. Then you can create or download the pattern you want to print on your computer. You just have to print it on the paper with the fabric to have the ink on your fabric. It's as simple as that. Now let's get the good amount of fabric and glue it to the structure. Okay, we still have some issues here. First, this fabric is really soft and not weathered at all, but we will take care of it in a single move. Let's mix some shade paint with PVA glue and water. I'm using skeleton ore to have a nice yellowish brown result. I can put this mix all over the fabric now. It will age the fabric well, create this weathered effect and make it more rigid and strong. I'm then just adding 2 painted skulls on the top of the poles to add a bit of grimdark to the shop. It's a nice stall, but there is still something missing here, and obviously it's things to sell. First, let's do the containers. I'm using the usual coffee stirrers for the box structure, some planks underneath and 4 pieces to make the sides. I'm then covering it with a wash. Make a quick dry brush on it. And it's done. I made 5 of these to fill the merchant's shop. But hey, are you telling me that's not a wood crate cellar? And you are right, my friend. We have one extra step, which will also be the longest. The merchant is actually a produce seller. Well, it could have been anything, but I thought it would be more interesting that way for the board. So let's make some tiny fruits and vegetables using a air-dry clay. For the apples, it's simple as hell. A bowl of clay and then a little push of sculpting tool on one side. For the pears, we take the same bowl and roll one side to stick it out. For the turnips, it's mostly the same as for the apples, but I'm adding small pieces of wire on one side to make the stems. Leeks will be a bigger challenge. I'm starting from a thin roll, cut a side straight, and then make multiple cuts lengthwise on the other side. The last crate will be filled with raw wheat, so I only need to fill a box with sand and pour some water and PVA mixed inside. Let's give some color to those greenies now. I didn't undercoat the white clay and moved to contrast paint. For the apples, I will basically make one side ruby red randomly, let it dry, and make the other side green. For the pears, only one coat of greenish yellow and we are done. Turnips will just have the top half of the surface covered with violet, and I let the green wires as it is. And the same with the leeks, with green only on the leaves, the bright one first and a darker one on the top. The crate of wheat will just need a wash of seraphim sepia followed by a dry brush of tyrant skull to look perfect. If you want, you can add some dirt on your stuff. Just load a dry brush with Agrax Earthshade and scrub it with your finger in front of the fruits. I did the same on the stall tent to add some more weathering. We just have to fill those crates with glued fruits and vegetables, glue them to the table, and the stall is finished. Yes, I know that's not the most productive produce seller, but hey, at least it could be relevant for a medieval themed scenery without corn, potatoes or bananas. And with that, the merchant part is done, let's move back to the manor. We only have two missing elements here, the coat of arms and the flag. Both will have the sigil of Clegane Faith on it. To make the shield, nothing complicated. First, I'm cutting the shape in a thin piece of clay. Then, as I want this to be made of wood, I will make the texture on one side. And then, I let it dry on a curved surface to get this banded shape. Once it's dry, and after a Mod Podge undercoat, I'm beginning the painting job the same way I did for the Turan wood. First, a diluted coat of Zandri dust. A first dry brush of Screaming Skull. Followed by a wash of Agrax Hair Shade. And a second dry brush of Screaming Skull. Now for the actual painting of the heraldry. I'm first giving some strong strokes of Ushabti bones on the front part. I don't need to be super precise here and I can leave the edges raw. Then I'm adding a wash with some Seraphim Sepia on the Ushabti bone. Now it's time for the deer skull. I'm quite bad at freehand, I must be honest, so let's keep it simple. I'm using pure white for the main shape. Then adding some black with a tiny brush to raise some details. Now it's a good time to apply a new wash of Nuln Oil all over the shield. And finish with a quick dry brush of pure white. We now just have to fix it to the main stone of the manor and it's done. Regarding the flag, it will be way simpler, the same way that we made the tent. I redesigned the Clegane Faith logo a little on a beige surface and I'm printing it on a piece of fabric. I'm cutting the excess and glue it to a wooden stick that I previously painted like the rest of the wood. And I'm adding the blade of a lance to get this spiky end. Now look at the paw angle to make the fabric fall naturally. You can have wind or so and you really choose the shape you want here. And then we can secure the shape with some more PVA glue. Normally, if the fabric is thin enough, the print will appear on the other side with the PVA application, otherwise you can still paint the verso. And when it's good and dry, we just have to fix the flag to its place. There it goes. The winds of Senary are blowing strong on the district, and the colors of the deer skull has never been so well worn. I hope you are seeing this video in late November or December because the Christmas time is, supply-wise, the best time for the last step of our project. We got all those fairy lights and fake candles in every good store. And this will be the most of our needs here. I got this 20 lights garland and a bunch of those cute fake candles LED that are rendering a flickering light. My first move will be to dismantle those candles to get the LED out. That's the only part I'm keeping outside of my never-ending stock of watch batteries. And for the garland, I'm basically removing every LED from it and keep 12 length of wires. Now comes the exhausting work of weld back each flickering LED to the wire and secure the connection with some insulation. Ta-da! 12 fireplaces and candle lights ready to be used. But before fixing the lights, it might be nice to have a socket to hide the battery and switch, and as I didn't decide this extra step before cutting the board, I need to get back to it. Carve a hole on the back to slide the case. We need to carve the board a little more just to plug those lights around each opening. And if you are really into knife work, you can even make trenches for every wire so that they don't hang on like that on the back. Final step of the whole project is basically a health walk in comparison with what we've been through. Let's pick our glue gun and fix the lights in place. The city is complete. Finally, and we got someone getting closer and closer to its doors. But there are still a little something missing, right? People, obviously. If you are expecting a deserted place from ruins or dungeons, this place would be really empty without inhabitants, travelers and yeah, tourists. Those lucky enough for not being sleeping under the sea. I spent some time between the episodes to paint minis because you cannot just be focused on something this big. And if Age of Sigmar miniatures are legit, I thought that Zombicide Green Horde Kickstarter exclusive survivors would be more representative of the kind of people you see in a legendary city like Marcita Aurora. But wait, I hear a sound. Footsteps reaching a bridge with rage and envy.
Yes, he did it. Kevin the Beastman has finally arrived to Marcita Aurora after destroying every single place in his path. Our hero wanted to pay homage to the Horned Man, the elemental incarnate of the beast itself. Because yes, when the faceless hunter is not devastating the Morton realms, he likes to rest in a city and paint minis before the winds of Gur call him again.
That's a wrap, my friends. After 9 weeks of work, the Marcita Aurora project has finally met its conclusion. I'm not sure how I did it and how I almost kept the deadlines green, but we can finally place this terrain where it belongs, on my best floor of my shelf. I wouldn't have followed through without all your support, of course, and knowing so many of you got interested or motivated by terrain making is the best reward for me. Thank you all for your patience, comments, and watching hours that make me keep my goal on sight. We will be back to some classic videos after that, as I really need some vacation from big project right now. So if you want to follow the next tutorial, you know where the notification bell is now. Until then, take care, good painting to all of you, and... Wait, what are you guys doing here? And why are you unpainted? Well, I guess that's a story for another day.